Hey everybody, happy Sunday. Sorry I am a little late. Right when I was ready to go live, if you were watching a minute ago, you would not have seen that I spilled water all over the place. So had to pause, clean it up. We're good now. Hope you're having a great weekend. I'm Nate Eaton, and it is another week of the Chad Daybell murder trial. We're getting ready to start off with tomorrow will be day 26. If you can believe it, it is Sunday, May 19th, 2024, right when we're done here. Headed out to Boise. I'm still at my house, was enjoying a few extra hours here with my family, but I will definitely be back in the courtroom tomorrow, maybe with a special guest. We'll have to see. It should be a big week. We had a big week last week, and really, honestly, this week is kind of to be determined. I mean, every week up until now, we've known. By the way, my name's Nate Eaton, if you're tuning in, and this is Courtroom Insider. Every night we break down the Chad Daybell case. We've been doing it since March 31st. And here we are mid-May, still going strong. And I'm happy to answer any of your questions that I can get to. So please put those in the comments. Also, please let us know where you're watching from, because it's fun to see where you all are from. As I was saying a minute ago, this week is kind of the to-be-determined week. We have no idea, really. We kind of have a generic idea, but we don't really know what's going to happen, because it is now time for the defense. We've kind of known the prosecution week by week that they were going to call a lot of witnesses, that we knew a lot of the witnesses because they were in Lori Vallow's trial last year. This is going to be like all new territory. Will John Pryor call 90 witnesses? Doubt it. Will he call 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9? Probably. Will he take a week? Will he take 3? Will he take a day? Will he take a month? These are all things that we really don't know. And so tomorrow and the next few days are going to be really interesting and compelling. And hopefully, I can fill you in as much as I know. But tonight it is time to plug in my computer so you can see what I'm talking about. One moment here. Time for the defense. That's not working. There we go. Time for the defense. Tonight we have much to talk about. Key points from last week in the trial. It was a big week. Even though it was a short week, we didn't have court on Friday, but we had a lot earlier in the week. Looking ahead to this week, will Chad take the stand? What are your thoughts? I want to know. Do you think Chad Daybell will take the stand in his defense? Would you? Do you want him to? Do you want to hear from him? Do you want to hear the prosecutors question him? That's kind of the big question. I'll share my thoughts on if I think he will or won't. What happens when the defense rests? Jury instruction and deliberation, if you can believe it, this is kind of coming up. This is in our front view in the next couple of weeks at least, and we'll answer your questions. And of course, we will remember Tylee, JJ, and Tammy. I do want to thank you all for watching Friday night when I had my interview with Laura, the juror number 4. So much positive feedback. Thank you all. I know she appreciates it too. She was nervous to do the interview, but so many of you have been supportive and sent so many kind messages, and I passed those along to her. So thank you very much for sending those, because it can be scary to go on television, not really TV, to go on the internet, to go on the World Wide Web, which we are, and share your story. And that's exactly what she did. And so we appreciate it. Okay, so here are 8 key points from last week, in my opinion. There were a lot of key points. There were a lot of great witnesses. There was a lot of evidence put up. Here are 8 takeaways. If you were to come to me and say, give me the bullet points, give me the headlines, give me the highlights, here's what I would tell you. The first one, Tylee's remains were shown to the jury on Monday. They saw the bone fragments. They saw the tissue in the bucket. They saw the graphic details. They've seen it before, but this time they actually had experts testifying about the bone marks and how those bone markings were caused with tools at Chad Daybell's house. That there were, stabbing, and that there were chopping movements. They saw that. How do you forget that? I don't know if you can. Tammy's autopsy. They saw that again, but it was more in depth with the experts. They talked about her cause of death being asphyxia, the different types of asphyxia. Also, the bruises that were on her body. They were fresh. They were not old. The expert really dove into the fact that they were able to examine these bruises. They were able to determine that her body was healthy. Kind of ruled out all possibility of seizures. Ruled out the possibility, at least her friends did, that she had gained a lot of weight. She was going to exercise classes. She was in shape. Third thing is the digital device movements. That was a big theme of last week. Where was Alex? Where was Chad? Where were they getting these burner phones? Where was Lori when these calls and texts were being shown? Honestly, though, the major focus on all of these was Alex, his digital devices. You could say Lori's iCloud too, but really tracking the geolocations to Chad Daybell's backyard, right down to the place where those kids were found. So we learned about the digital devices, heard about those from witnesses. Next on the list, we have the jail call between Lori and Chad. We had not heard this before. It was interesting. It was in code, talking about blueprints and the plan, and Lori really pressuring Chad for a reassurance that what they were doing was okay. The call happened 12 hours, less than 12 hours before the police searched Chad Daybell's home and found those children, or his yard. But we heard their interactions. We heard them, how they speak one with another. Chad, giggling and in a way kind of sounding, I don't want to say nervous, but a little apprehensive. And Lori very much, like I said, wanting his reassurance. The gun versus the paintball gun, this was clarified, I thought, in a very clear manner by AG investigator Edwards. He showed two photos, paintball gun, real gun, showed how there could be mistakes between the scope and the hopper, showed how that gun that Alex Cox had the night that Tammy Daybell was shot at, that there were two pins that were easily shiftable. Two pins that if you gently brushed the gun, those pins could come out, and that could cause the gun to misfire. And that's exactly what happened when Alex Cox approached Tammy Daybell in the driveway. Saw a lot of text. The closing witness for the prosecution, Doug Hart, talked about the text of Chad saying he would turn up the pain, texts about demons being in the children, text from Lori saying this needs to hurry up, go to father and ask for speed in making this plan, this whatever happen. And then the state rested. But after the state rested, a little bit more. The clerical error on the indictment. The wrong date on count 4 for JJ's murder. Fortunately, that all got solved. It's been taken care of, will be taken care of with jury instruction. But that was definitely a moment that many of us in the courtroom and many watching, many were very, very little worried about what would happen next. So those are the 8 key points that I picked up from last week. If you paid attention last week, if you watched, if you were interested in the case, please tell me in the comments below the key points that stuck out to you and what you thought were interesting. Each of us, it's interesting, we know that each of us have different takeaways from different days, from different witnesses that we think are strong that others don't. And especially in talking with the juror, talking with Laura last week, some of the things that she picked up on Lori Vallow's case or didn't pick up on, we think that they're huge deals to us, but when it comes down to it, they're just little blips. And that's how it is. Every day it seems like there's so much that was talked about in the trial, and then 2 days later we forget what was said 2 days earlier. But again, it's a complex case when you've got 67, 68 witnesses on the stand. How do you keep track of them all? So those are my thoughts from the past week. And then I want to tell you who we know. Well, who we are pretty sure will testify for the defense. So tomorrow morning, it's John Pryor's case. He will call witnesses. He will question them. The prosecution will then have a chance to question, and then John Pryor will get recross. And then he'll call the next witness. It's in his court. He'll move through the witnesses just like the prosecution moved through the witnesses. They'll take notes. It'll be interesting to see which prosecutor cross-examines which people. But according to John Pryor's opening statement, here is who will testify. Again, this could have changed. So don't Don't hold to it. Hold on. I don't know why my graphic isn't popping up. There we go. He says he has 4 experts, and those experts include Greg Hampikian. He's a DNA expert, works at Boise State University. He helped with the Christopher Tapp case. Patrick Eller, data forensics guy. Dr. Kathy Raven, a pathologist. And he said last week, that there was one... Here, I'm on the wrong slide. Here we go. 4 experts. Greg Hampikian, Chad's children. At least 3 of them, he said, will testify. Patrick Eller, the data forensics guy, Dr. Kathy Raven, the pathology, and Dr. Eric Bartelink, the anthropologist. So they're assuming that the plan still holds, that John Pryor decides to call everyone who he said he would call during the opening statements. He said that 3 of Chad's children would be called, that he wanted 4 experts, including those 4 on the screen. That's 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 witnesses. Now, there could be a lot more. And some of these he might not decide to call. Like Eric Bartelink, he did not say that guy's name during opening statements. He said it last week when the state called their, I believe it was their anthropologist expert, and they asked her about Dr. Eric Bartelink's report. He reviewed the findings, and she said that their findings were similar. And so John Pryor might think, well, I'll save the money, save the time, and not call him. But then again, he could. And he could call so much more than these people. He could call law enforcement back. He has released Ray Hermosillo from the subpoena, which is interesting because Detective Hermosillo was the lead detective. But he said the other day that he was releasing him. And so we won't be hearing from him again, as far as we know. And he has released some other law enforcement officers, but he could call others who he thinks need to testify. And that's kind of where the mystery is at. He could also show up tomorrow and say, I have no one to call. I doubt that, but it could happen. And wouldn't that be interesting? So there's the 4 witnesses who we believe will call. Now, here are the questions that I have still outstanding. Number 1, what is the defense? What is Chad Daybell's defense going to be? Point everything at Lori and Alex? Is that it? Say he was framed? I don't know. How long will the defense take? As I mentioned, will it take 2 days? Will it take 2 weeks? I don't know. I don't think it'll take 2 months. Will Chad take the stand? How long will prosecution cross go? We have not seen these prosecutors on cross before. They didn't have any witnesses in Lori Vallow's case, and now they will have witnesses here. How long will that go? And will the prosecution call rebuttal witnesses? They have a shot after the defense is done to call rebuttal witnesses. It's their case. They get one more, one more shot at it. And who knows who they could call on that. Do I personally think Chad Daybell will take the stand? I do not. I don't see it. Again, it would be fascinating if he does, but I just don't see it. And maybe it'll be a last-ditch effort for John Pryor to put him up there. But could you imagine? That would be something. Alec Murdaugh took the stand in his trial, and I think that took like 2 days. It was a long time. And Chad Daybell would likely be the last witness on the defense if he did it. But that would be fascinating. So those are kind of the questions that we have about what happens next. Okay, so I went back after the defense finishes. As I said, the prosecution has a chance to call rebuttal witnesses. If they have no rebuttal witnesses, then we go straight into closing arguments. But how it worked with Lori Vallow's case is and this could be the same. The prosecution rested, and then the prosecution rested, and then it was time for the defense. And this is what happened. Do you remember this day? Pay attention if you missed it. This was last year. Sorry, it's audio only. We didn't have cameras in the courtroom. But this was a moment that everybody was waiting for. We were waiting to see if Lori Vallow was going to take the stand. The judge dismissed everybody from the courtroom so that they could have 20 minutes alone. We came back into the courtroom. What was the defense going to be? What was their big moment? What was it going to be? And this is what happened.
The state has rested its case in chief. We took a recess. A Rule 29 motion for judgment of acquittal was argued and taken under advisement by the court. Counsel for the defense wished to have time for a privileged and private communication with their client regarding proceeding forward at this time. So let me inquire of the defense now. Mr. Archibald, have you and Mr. Thomas had an opportunity to consult with your client?
Yes, Your Honor.
And how does the defense intend to proceed going forward?
Your Honor, we don't believe the state has proved its case, so the defense will rest.
Very well. Does the defense then I'll just inquire of your client, Mr. Archibald. So, Ms. Vallow, you do have the Fifth Amendment right to, in this case, according to the Fifth Amendment, it's guaranteed by the United States Constitution that no person shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against themselves, and this privilege applies to Idaho through the 14th Amendment. That guarantees that no person may be compelled in a criminal case to testify. So you do have that right and will maintain that right. And is it your decision to continue to maintain that right and not testify in this matter?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you for your response, and I appreciate counsel discussing that with your client. With that in mind, then, counsel, I believe we'll have the jurors brought back in. All right, at this time we are on the record on KCR 22-21-1624, State of Idaho versus Lori Noreen Vallow. We took a break for further matters outside the presence of the jurors. The jurors are now here returned. At this time, the state has rested its case in chief. This would be the time then for the defense to present its case. Mr. Archibald, upon consultation with your client, would you please advise the court on how the defense is proceeding at this time?
Your Honor, after consultation with my client, we don't believe the state has proven its case, so the defense rests.
Very well. The defense has rested as well at this time then. So I'll just advise the jurors that will conclude the evidence portion of this trial. What will happen next is the court will need to go through the jury instructions you'll be receiving before your deliberations begin. There will be a jury instruction conference with counsel tomorrow. Given the amount of evidence and the number of charges here, that will take some time. So we're going to have you be excused for tomorrow. We will continue then Thursday morning with the closing arguments, which will be presented to you by both sides, which will be a summation of the evidence, and that will take place before your deliberations begin, and then you'll be given your final jury instructions. So that will conclude the trial proceedings for today.
Okay, so I think a lot of people were like gobsmacked, like, what? I had heard that something like that might happen, that there wasn't going to be much of a defense, that really the only person they might call was Lori Vallow, and that they did not know up until that moment if Lori was going to take the stand or not. It was up to her, and she was constantly changing her mind. The thing was, for the jurors and a lot of the public who didn't know, our juror I spoke with Friday, Laura, she said she went in there, okay, let's hear what the defense is. And then when Jim Archibald says, we felt that they didn't prove their case, we're resting. Wait, what? They wanted to hear the defense. Saul Hernandez, the other juror I interviewed, he wanted to hear the defense. They all did. I think everybody wanted to hear the defense, but there wasn't one. And so there, in a matter of 4 minutes, we've had 5 weeks of testimony of all this stuff, and boom, wait, what? They said, no, wait, we're going home and we're starting deliberating in 2 days? And that's exactly what happened. I don't foresee that happening here with John Pryor tomorrow. But if it did, that would be wild. When it does, well, let me back up to Vallow. So everybody went home for the day. The next day was day 26. and it was jury instruction day. And the attorneys gathered at the courthouse and with the judge, and this was done in public. We could go in. I think I was one of 10 people in the courtroom. There were not a lot. And they went through all of the instructions to make sure that everybody agreed that the instructions were fair, legal, that there were no objections. There were 39 total instructions for the jurors. Instructions 1 through 10 were previously read to them at the beginning. But the rest, the judge had to prepare and have them be read. I imagine this similar process will happen here with Chad Daybell. So once both sides rest and and everything's like that, jury instructions will get cleaned up, taken care of. There were 39 here. They revised the verdict form, the form that the jurors get when they mark guilty, not guilty. They revised that, and then they were ready to go. Then on day 27, the next day, was a Thursday. It was closing argument day. And I will say, I looked up the time. The prosecution's closing arguments were around an hour and 12 minutes. It was Rob Wood. The defense was around an hour. It was Jim Archibald. The rebuttal for the prosecutors was then 18 minutes. So the day started with prosecutors speaking an hour and 12. Defense then got about an hour, and then the prosecution had rebuttal for about 18 minutes. And then the judge read them their instructions. Oh, sorry, I should say. The day started with the judges reading all those instructions, those 39 instructions. It took about an hour. He read through them all. Then we took a recess. Then we came back in. Prosecution, defense, rebuttal. And then the judge said, okay, the case is yours. And I believe at the beginning of the day too, right around the time he was reading those instructions, they pulled the alternates. And they did that randomly out of a hat or whatever you want to say. It wasn't a hat, it was something. And they just pulled the numbers and they said, these 6 will be alternates, number. And so the alternates did not go back and deliberate. Several of them did come, though, to the verdict. When the verdict was read, they were in the courtroom. And I'm sure all of those alternates were like, oh, I just sat through this for 5 weeks. I really wanted to deliberate, but they didn't. So then the alternates were picked. 2 p.m. on Thursday, the deliberations started. And I'll tell you what. Personally, for me and a lot of the other reporters there, we just spent 5 weeks nonstop, go. Always, got to get ready for this, got to do this. It was all uncertainty. It was like, all right, what do we do now? Are they going to take an hour? Do we wait at the courthouse? Of course you wait at the courthouse. I just remember sitting there at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. Around 5 or 6, dinner was brought in. So we thought, oh, look, they're bringing in dinner. Sorry, I got something in my eye. That means they're almost done. They want to stay through the night. They want to get this done tonight. It's going to be a long night. We'll stay for the long haul. We'll be ready. 7 o'clock, the jurors were released. Or the jurors decided to go home. So I remember I ran back to my hotel. I did a Courtroom Insider, talked about the events of the day. Next day, I think I went over to the courthouse. It was a Friday, and it was first come, first serve seating. I think I got there like at 5 in the morning. I had donuts for all the early birds over at Winco. I think I went live. A lot of TV crews were going live. We went into the courtroom around 8:30, I believe, 9 o'clock. And again, it was hurry up and wait. How long is this going to take? Are they going to go through the weekend? Are they going to go end tonight? Jurors and juries like to have verdicts on Fridays, it seems. They don't want to stay through the weekend. And the longer it goes, the more you wonder, what are they debating over? Like, what's the issue? Is there one issue that people are caught up on, or is it one juror? I heard the defense went and played pool. The prosecutors, everybody, in a way, they were still at the courthouse. We saw them, and everybody kind of in a way seemed a little relaxed, like a little pressure's off me. I think around 11, I said, I'm going to run across the street and get some lunch from Winco for me and a couple of other reporters. I left the courthouse, went across, ordered lunch. There's a little deli counter there. Kind of took my time a little. I mean, I wasn't in a rush because everyone's like, whatever, you know. There was media all over the place in front of the courthouse. I get back to the courthouse. I go up the stairs. It's on the 4th floor. Get up there. I sit down, and a producer from Law and Crime leans over and she says, I think we might have a verdict. And I said, what? She goes, yeah. The bailiff, the jury bailiff who's over with the jurors, just walked in the courtroom and went over to the trial court administrator and said something in her ear. And then she stood up and left, and the bailiff went back. So I'm like, And I kid you not, within a minute, the trial court administrator walked in the courtroom and said, ladies and gentlemen, we have a verdict. It will be read at, I think it was 12:30 or 1. And the minute she said that, I was on Twitter and I did in all caps, we have a verdict. And there was this buzz. So many people were out in the hall. They came like running in. The prosecution came in. The defense came in. Everybody's like in there. There's like this anticipation building. We're sending out push alerts to let you all know there's a verdict. I mean, it was like a, here we go. We're waiting. They closed the doors. They lowered the shades, the blinds and the drapes. And Lori Vallow walks in. She's one of the last people to walk in. And she goes and sits with her attorneys. And here are some photos from that day. This is actually as the verdict's being read. I'm going to play it for you in a minute, not the whole thing. Here she is when she sat down in the beginning. There she is chatting with her attorneys. And this is her reaction as the verdict's read. Jim Archibald is looking down. He had all the charges and indictment in front of him, and he was going through the pages. I don't know if John Thomas did. Here is the moment, though. I was seated right here. And I don't know if you can see this arrow. I'll make it bigger right here. This is where I had sat the majority of the trial. And it was odd to me that they closed the blinds. I wondered if they were doing it for security purposes. Perhaps they were. There was so much security in there. And all the cops who had worked the case came in. The courtroom was packed. There was security all in here. You couldn't see it because of the camera angles, but it was packed. And the jurors, the judge came in. He said, ladies and gentlemen, we have a verdict. And asked if the parties were ready. And then here is...
has the jury reached a verdict?
Yeah.
Very well. If you have the verdict form, I'd ask the bailiff bring that over here and we'll have it brought to the clerk to be read. All right, the court has reviewed the verdict form, find that it's been properly completed, signed and dated. So at this time, I'll direct the clerk to please read the verdict into the record. The defendant would please rise.
In the District Court of the 7th Judicial District of the State of Idaho, in and for the County of Fremont, State of Idaho plaintiff versus Lori Noreen Vallow, aka Lori Noreen Daybell, defendant, case number CR 22211624. Verdict. We, the jury, duly impaneled and sworn to try the above entitled action for our verdict, unanimously answer the questions submitted to us as follows. Question number 1. In regards to count 1 of the amended indictment, is Lori Noreen Vallow not guilty or guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder of Tylee Ryan and grand theft by deception? Answer, guilty. Question number 2. In regards to count 2 of the amended indictment, is Lori Noreen Vallow not guilty or guilty of first-degree murder of Tylee Ryan? Answer, guilty. Question number 3. In regards to count 3 of the amended indictment, is Lori Noreen Vallow not guilty or guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder of Joshua Jackson Vallow and grand theft by deception. Answer, guilty. Question number 4. In regards to count 4, the amended indictment, is Lori Noreen Vallow not guilty or guilty of first-degree murder of Joshua Jackson Vallow? Answer, guilty. Question number 5. In regards to count 5 of the amended indictment, is Lori Noreen Vallow not guilty or guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder of Tammy Daybell? Answer, guilty. Question number 6. In regards to count 7 of the amended indictment, is Lori Noreen Vallow not guilty or guilty of grand theft? Answer, guilty. Dated this 12th day of May, 2023, signed by the presiding officer.
All right, please be seated. Madam Clerk, thank you for reading the verdict into the record. At this time, let me just inquire of the jury, is this in fact your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Let me ask now from counsel, does the state wish to have the jury polled?
We do not, Your Honor.
Does the defense wish to have the jury polled?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, the jury will be polled at this time. Madam Clerk, if you would please indicate only by juror numbers of each of the jurors if this is their true and correct verdict individually.
Juror number 4, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 5, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 6, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 8, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 9, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 10, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 11, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 12, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 13, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 14, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 15, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 16, is this your true and correct verdict?
Yes.
All right, thank you, counsel. Thank you, everyone, for your decorum this afternoon. Court is adjourned.
Okay, look at this. Lori wouldn't even say goodbye to her attorney. I mean, they got them out of there pretty quick. Got her out of there pretty quick, but she was mad. She was really, really mad. She wouldn't even say goodbye to Jim Archibald. She may have said something to John Thomas, but she was upset. They walked her out of that courthouse. She was on her way to Madison County and booked a few hours later back in the jail in Madison County, where she stayed until she was sentenced a few months later. That will be different in this case because, assuming if Chad Daybell is guilty, then the jury will immediately, after we have that moment that we just had, the judge will then call the penalty phase. And it might not be like that afternoon. It might be like, okay, starting tomorrow or starting on Monday, we got to get things in order. We're going to reconvene and the state's going to argue why she deserves to die. And the defense is going to argue why he deserves life in prison. And then at the end of that phase, he will be sentenced to a sentence. And then he goes to the Idaho Department of Correction, to prison. He's never been to prison, assuming he's guilty again, and he will either go to death row, where he will be in solitary confinement for 23 hours a day, or he'll go to some other pod if he gets life in prison, where he'll stay the rest of his life, assuming there's no appeal, and assuming, again, that he's found guilty. So it'll be a little different, whereas when Lori Vallow's came to an end, we knew we had a couple of months to get ready for the sentencing. The verdict came down mid-May. She was sentenced July 31st in Fremont County, where the crimes happened. And that's where everybody spent the night out, and we were there the night before. And that's a day I won't forget. But again, here's the photos. The many looks of Lori as this verdict is read, and she is not happy. Here are some other photos that were taken in that courthouse right when the verdict came down. There's Larry Woodcock. There's Larry actually chatting with Jim and John. I really like this one, Rob Wood hugging Kay Woodcock. This is what was the scene outside the courthouse. This was before the verdict came down. All the media. Then after the verdict came down, Larry and Kay came down the stairs. They stood in front of the microphones. They answered our questions. I was on the ground sitting there. And that was the day. So again, that's not happening this week in this case. I'm not anticipating that, but things are getting there and things are happening fast. So tomorrow morning back in court, here's what you need to know. You can watch live starting at 8:30 Mountain Daylight Time on eastidahonews.com. I'll be posting the written updates all day long from the courtroom. And then I'll be back tomorrow night again for Courtroom Insider, 6:30 Mountain Time. And if you've missed any of the library of our videos of the witnesses, of the testimony, whatever, you can go back and watch. So many of you have written saying you're going back and watching the Lori Vallow Courtroom Insiders that I did a year ago. And I have some exciting news. I don't have all the details yet, but within the next few days, we're going to have all of those up as a podcast. So you can go back if you want and listen to all the audio. If you're out running or in the car or whatever, it'll be a podcast Courtroom Insider form. We're going to upload all the Lori Vallow ones and all the Chad Daybell ones. So if video's not your thing and you just want to get caught up, you can do that. And hopefully you can, that'll be season 1, season 2. I don't know what season 3 will be. Probably the Arizona trial. Maybe we'll do some other trials after that. Before I forget, I do want to show you these beautiful photos of Tylee and JJ. And this is them when they were probably around the same age. Obviously, they weren't the same age when they were born, but these are 2 photos from when they were in the same age range. And Tylee doing one of her favorite things, holding a baby doll, and JJ doing one of his favorite things, playing on a playground. So tonight we remember them, and we remember Tammy, and of course Charles, and all of the people that have been impacted by these horrible crimes. And hopefully, at least in this case, justice will be soon. It doesn't happen fast. It goes slow, but at least it's getting there. And at least, we all get to observe this and hopefully learn through it. And hopefully maybe prevent anything like this from happening to other people. All right. Guess who's here? Erica's here. You want the seat, honey? You want to come in? Okay. She's just saying hi for a minute. Last week we were here and she was sick. You're all better now?
I am better.
She's interacting with those
Thank
of you on
goodness.
our Meet in the Eatons channel.
Actually, I wasn't. I was just reading your comments
okay.
about Botox and filler.
Oh, on Lori? Not on me, right?
No.
I have 0 Botox.
Maybe we need to, but we're still keeping it wrinkly.
Yes. What have you thought this week? Have you paid attention to the trial at all?
I'll be honest, guys. I have not heard a lot from the trial this week. Was the storm? Was that the beginning of the week?
The storm was this week, right?
Okay, sadly,
For
that's the only
second
thing I
time.
remember. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, it's been a really busy week. It was a really busy week, but
Right.
But what are your questions? I'm here.
Oh, okay.
I got it.
Let's do the questions and the shout outs. Let me get them for you.
Oh, are we telling people about tomorrow?
All I said is there might be a special guest with me at the courthouse.
Okay.
So, I don't know.
Good luck with that.
Yes. Okay. Oh my gosh, we have so many questions, but it's awesome. Okay, here we go. Shout outs.
Oh, of course you're giving this.
Yeah.
Karen Anarchist, maybe?
Travis from Chalice, thank you for being a faithful watcher of Courtroom Insider.
Happy birthday to Melissa Bates from Far West, Utah.
You know, Melissa, when we drive down to Utah on the way home, normally we'll stop off in Far West. Sometimes we do it. That Maverick, I think there's a Maverick right off the freeway.
Get a slushy.
If you ever see us there, please say hello. Melissa and Whitney from Utah, so glad you're watching.
Elizabeth G. Thomas Howell.
Amy Daniels, Lena Atkinson.
Erica, excellent name, Mason.
Yep, Mesa,
excuse me.
Nick Deppen Phyllis. Dirt in my eye. Whoever Dirt in my eye is, I hope you got it out. Beverly Bafanos.
Cindy Hemsley.
And Brian Bohiner.
And Liz Roberts. Hello.
Hello.
Shout out.
Shout out to you all.
And I was laying down. Sorry. I'm sure you can see I have a unicorn horn right here.
Man, I took like a 3-hour nap yesterday.
I cleaned the garage.
Well, Erica cleaned the garage. I was so tired. I don't nap. And then I also slept really well last night. So I must be tired.
And we probably need to address the fact I didn't make him go to the doctor this weekend, so I failed all of you, nor did I send him back to Boise early. But
Yeah, we're going to
I think
Boise.
he's all right.
We'll be there tomorrow, getting better. Crash D from Southern Idaho. Thanks for watching. Okay, let's go with these questions. Number 1, you want to read it?
If Chad Daybell was sentenced to death and you were invited to cover the execution 20 years from now, would you do it?
Yes, absolutely. And I would offer to be a media witness. Would you watch?
I don't know that I would really want to, but
I mean, I don't want to, but I would feel it would only be fitting to see this all the way through. I have been put in a drawing to be a media witness when the DC sniper was executed back in 2009. I did not get picked for that, but I did cover it. And as a reporter, I would do it. Would you? Comment below. Would you, if you had the chance to witness an execution, would you do it? Now, also, the lethal injection is a little different than the firing squad.
yeah.
Firing squad, I don't know. I don't know if I'd want to see a hanging or something, which we don't do, but yeah. Okay, you want to read number 2?
On the lighter side of things, when the attorneys have a sidebar, why do the bailiffs change positions? I notice one always steps to the side of the defense table right in front of the gallery and stands there until the sidebar ends. Is this a security thing in order to protect the defendant?
Yes, it is. Anytime there's a sidebar, they kind of move around. They block the possible entrances to get into the well of the courtroom, which is what it's called. Chad Daybell is then sitting alone at his table. There's nothing between the gallery and him, whereas at least if his attorney was there, his attorney could block someone that might try to charge him. But they move over. They also do it to block so you can't see what's on his computer or any of the evidence on the tables. It is definitely a security issue. They'll move over by the jury too to block the jury access. During sidebars, we are allowed to stand. So, but they say it's like a, what are those? Are they called what are those animals that just pop up out of the ground?
Meerkat.
Meerkats, yeah. They said it's a the courtroom daddy says it's a meerkat situation. Pop up, look around. You can't
Is it
walk
the
around.
same courtroom daddy as last year?
It is, yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
nice guy.
Okay, Travis, I'm wondering, without strong evidence of Chad's prints or DNA on any of the tools, will he be found not guilty on 2 of the charges? I have no idea. That's up for the jury.
Lynette, we've heard from the beginning of this trial that Judge Boyce offered Pryor the unusual leeway in his cross-examinations to go beyond whatever was brought up in the direct examination, so as to limit the number of witnesses that would need to be called by Pryor and move the trial along.
Let's stop there just for a minute to explain that. Normally, in a trial, when the prosecutor can ask the questions they want to their witness, whatever questions they want, the defense on cross-examination has to stick within the topics that were discussed of what the prosecutor asked. They can't go beyond the scope. But in this trial, in order to keep things moving and in order to save on costs of bringing witnesses back and whatever, the judge is allowing leeway on many of the witnesses. So Pryor is often going beyond the scope until the prosecution objects on certain witnesses. So that's what that means. So now to the question.
Okay. From the family chat, it seems Chad's kids were very much believers in their dad and dad's beliefs. My question is whether or not the prosecution would have been granted the same leeway by Judge Boyce to go beyond the direct question of Pryor when he puts the kids on the stand so they wouldn't have to subpoena them too.
That's a good question. I would imagine so. I don't know for sure. They don't release these type of things, like the deals and whatnot. But I would think so. I would think that they might have a chance to do that and see. And we'll see. We'll see this week, if the children get called this week, that how much Pryor asks and then what the prosecution does, and if Pryor objects because they're going beyond the scope. We'll see.
Do you know if police are looking into Julie Rowe since her specific threats and her showing up at court?
I have no idea. Haven't heard, and she hasn't been back, and she's obviously not a witness for the prosecution, and I doubt she'll be a witness for the defense, so not sure. James, have you seen the clip of Alex Cox singing on Smule? I think I have. Yeah, I saw that somewhere. I've also seen the clip of him telling comedy jokes.
What is Smule?
An app that you go on, and I guess it's kind of like karaoke music app thing. Yeah.
I'm not cool enough for that. Amy, Since the judge released the jury Thursday before bringing up the clerical error, will the only thing that the jury be apprised to is the date error and the need for correction of other simple things?
Good question, Amy. That is a question that the judge said the jurors will get us an instruction. So I talked about the instructions a few minutes ago. That will probably be in one of the instructions when, before they go to deliberate, the judge will say, instruction number 16, on count 4, you will have found that the indictment date changed from such and such to such and such. You should da-da-da-da-da-da. So yeah, they will be apprised of it. They won't know about all the nitty-gritty that happened the other afternoon because they were home and not supposed to be watching or anything like that. So yeah, it will be brought up to them.
Christine, what do they do with all the stuff left in the townhomes? I assume you mean Lori's, furnitures, guns, etc. Can the state auction it off and put the money towards all the money spent on the case?
I believe the state will auction off stuff that can be used. That's normally what happens with evidence that isn't used. I doubt it will go directly toward the actual case. I mean, it will, from what I understand, back in the day, it used to be all the evidence that Rexburg seized. Once a year, they do a big auction, with bikes and stuff, whenever the cases were done and if it didn't need to go back to its rightful owners, and then they could use that for part of their funds. So, but yeah, they might be able to recoup some of it. How does Lori get away with going back to the last name Ryan for flights and rental agreements? Her driver's license would have had to be changed back to Ryan, right? I believe she had another driver's license that said Ryan. In fact, I saw a picture of it. So I don't know. I think a lot of times too, flights, I guess they really check more than rental agreements.
I know, but I remember when we got married, they had advised me to move my maiden name to my middle name so that things legally, when they come up like that, there's some kind of wiggle room that technically that is my name.
Yeah. That'd be interesting. She probably had a lot of, look at all the IDs she had with her kids and all the birth certificates and death certificates and cash she had when they were on the move. So I'm sure it's something she thought up. If a witness comes forward with information incriminating the defendant that the state is not aware of, could that witness or evidence be given that opportunity to be shown even though the state is rested? Yes, but the state could bring it in rebuttal witnesses. And also, I think if it's a game changer, the state can petition, I would think, and be Your Honor, this has come to light. We need to bring it forward and get it in that way. They still have a chance to bring in rebuttal witnesses. So there's that. I missed that one.
Oh. Can members of law enforcement ever serve on a jury?
I think so. In fact, there was a cop called for this trial, and he actually advanced past several rounds, but then he was ultimately taken out of. Yeah.
All right. Batch 2 of questions, Peggy. Morgan, how do we watch your interview with Summer? I can't go to CrimeCon, but would love to see it.
Yeah. So a couple of things on the interview. I don't know. I'll have to check on that and get back to you how that's going to happen. I know it won't be streaming live. It's not like a live stream, but I think if you join Crime HQ, which is part of CrimeCon, after the fact, a few days after CrimeCon, I believe they're going to post the video there, and they do offer a free 3-day trial. So you wouldn't even have to pay, and you could join and watch that. Plus, you can watch all of the other stuff at CrimeCon. We just yesterday were going through our CrimeCon schedule.
We were.
What are you looking forward to?
Things. I love Chris Hansen. That's my personal favorite, just because I feel like it's very relevant. Child predators to today, things online that kids are doing, texting, things like that. So I'm interested to hear that one, but I'm also interested to hear about Scamanda.
Yeah. I've been talking with the producer of Scamanda, the lady that broke the story, and the investigator on the Scamanda. If you haven't heard Scamanda, listen to the podcast about a young mom who gets cancer, says she has cancer, blogs about it, raises all this money, has photos of herself with a port in her chest at the hospital getting treatments, gets Leanne Rimes, other celebrities to donate, send money, turns into this big thing for years. She didn't have cancer, from what we know.
Did you just give away the premise of the podcast?
Well, listen to it, because it's crazy just how many layers there are. So the very first panel at CrimeCon, I'm going to be talking with those guys, with those ladies. So yeah, that should be interesting to go. But I know that it does cost money. If you use the promo code EATON, EATON, you can get 10% off the standard pass. I don't get any money from that. We don't get paid to go to CrimeCon. We're going to do some behind the scenes stuff if you want to watch. And if you see us there, maybe we'll interview you and ask about why you came. But so yeah, I'll find out the details about how you can watch the interview with Summer. Many of you are asking if there were conditions, why she's doing it. There were no conditions on the interview. She said she'll answer anything. She might not want to answer stuff and might say, I don't want to, I'm not feel comfortable with that stuff, which is totally fine. And why she's doing it, because she was invited to by CrimeCon, and this gives her a chance to share her story, not on national news, just there in an environment. And I think, as I've told you, I would defend interviewing anyone. I would interview Lori Vallow, Chad Daybell. I believe that I want to hear from them. I'm curious. So that's why. Why were the charges amended? This is from Cindy. What was actually changed? Why would the death dates even be touched? Don't you just edit what needs to be? Well, yeah, you do. And that was the problem. It was a clerical error. Somehow, I think in a copy and paste from Tylee's, it went into JJ's and no one caught it. Because the judge approved, I believe, 3 changes in other indictment charges on the indictment. He didn't approve it changing anything on count 4, and yet it was changed. So,
also, though, have you ever edited something so many times that then it just all looks the same?
Right.
I feel like that is an easy mistake, but obviously that was scary. That worried me on Thursday.
I can't tell you how many times I've written a story over and over, like the same story, a really in-depth investigation. We'll go to publish and there'll be a typo in the first line that I've read over and over, but it just happens.
And then I text Nate and tell him to fix it.
Then she catches all the typos. Kokomo, Indiana. Yeah.
Why did Pryor bring up psychics?
I have no idea.
Miss Cleo, can't wait for that. Maybe it'll happen. Maybe they'll talk about it tomorrow.
Yeah, maybe he'll call a psychic or a medium to the stand. That would be interesting. I doubt it, but I don't know why he did. Camille says, hey, Nate, if the Koberger trial moves to Ada County, can they reassign the judge to Judge Boyce? No. Judge is his name, real name. Judge is the judge in that case. And because the crimes happened in his district. Judge Boyce is a judge for the 7th district, which is eastern Idaho. So he covers cases here. Judge handles districts for the 4th, I believe, northern Idaho, or 3rd.
Do you think he legally changed his name?
I don't know, but isn't that amazing? Judge.
It's pretty good.
The other thing is, there is a chance that if, like, every judge in a district had to declare a conflict of interest, like step out, they could reassign a judge from a nearby district. I think Judge Boyce would say no more. I need a summer off. Also, will you be attending and reporting it? Think I should go?
We have discussed this. It depends when it is and where it is.
Yeah.
No commitments yet.
If it was next month, I would have to say no. But East Idaho News will be covering it. I think it would be really interesting to do Courtroom Insider with that one. And I think really the benefit of doing this is being in the courtroom, witnessing it, being there in person, rather than watching it on a live stream. Nothing against that. So I don't know.
I'm losing hair from this guy, so I'm going to need him to stay home more than a few weeks.
Yeah.
What happens if Chad's kids lie for their dad? I guess that'd be a good question in general. When you lie under oath, right?
You can be held in contempt. You can be in
How
trouble.
do you prove that, though?
Well, if you go up there and say something, and then they present evidence that someone lied.
Intentional.
It would have to be like show proof of it. That's, I don't know. That's kind of
I'm sure people lie under oath
right.
quite a bit.
Or they could really say their memory served them this way and it didn't happen that way, but they truly believe it. It's hard to remember stuff from 4 years ago. Not that I'm, defending anybody, but it can be very hard. Our memories change over time. Karen says, do you think Pryor knew the amended indictment for JJ? Do you think he knew about it? Was he legally required to bring it up to the judge if he did know? I don't know if he knew about it. He said he did. He kind of referenced the fact that he did. He's not legally supposed to. If he did know, he was probably waiting until the very end to be like, okay, you guys got this wrong. The fact that judge caught it and he didn't, and neither did the prosecutors, is interesting.
Mother of Hens, do you think Zulema or Melanice, is that okay?
Melanie Boudreau, yeah.
Yes, will ever be charged?
Not in this case for Zulema, and I don't think Melanie either. I think that this case, when Chad Daybell's done in Idaho, is done. Zulema was given immunity. She said that on the stand. She cooperated with the police. I don't know if Melanie was. She did have attorneys there. You can assume she was given it. Now, whether Melanie Boudreau faces charges in Arizona in relation to Brandon's shooting and Charles Vallow's death, that those charges could come.
Blackberry Thistle Tea, will Lori's trial in Arizona be televised? Will EIN be there?
So I believe it will be televised in Arizona. They're very camera friendly. So far, they've allowed cameras in every hearing for her. And yes, when that trial happens, I plan to go. It shouldn't be as long as this one. Should be much shorter. It's the 2 charges, still very serious. It's supposed to start August 1st, but she just got a new attorney. I do not see it starting this year. There's so much information. I could see it starting next year. Maybe in the winter.
I told him if it was in the winter, I would come with him with the kids, and he would love that.
Yeah.
But if it's August in Arizona, I'm going to pass on that.
Auntie Reed, Nate, do the prosecution and defense face each other? No. Well, they're seated like this, and then they can look at each other, but they're like off to the side. They're not right across. Chad Daybell faces the jury. The prosecution faces the judge and the witness. And you can go back and watch. A couple of days ago, I did a layout of the courtroom. My amazing art skills.
Bobby, do you think they would ever be able to charge Chad for any part of Charles's death?
Well, the the prosecutor there in Arizona said that they do not have sufficient evidence that they believe would get a guilty verdict. So that's why they haven't charged him. The police recommended that they charge Chad. A new prosecutor could always come in and take a second look at the case and decide to. But as far as this prosecutor, I don't see it.
M. Webb, when a woman takes the stand, Chad folds his computer and stares at her. With men testifying, he takes notes and stares at his computer. My husband noticed this. Have you noticed this?
Yeah, I kind of have, especially when it was his family member. When Samantha was on the stand, he looked at her. I wouldn't say it's all men, but I would say that, yeah, you're generally onto something. And he has taken notes during some of the women too. So
I have thoughts, but I probably shouldn't share them. If he's not letting his wife talk, he probably doesn't take much stock into what other women say either.
Well, he definitely cared about what Lori thought.
Well, that's true.
That's one woman he cared about. Here's what we care about. You following us. Not in a religious type of way or anything like that. Please, not that. There's my Facebook, Nate Eaton Reporter, my Instagram, n.eaton, at Nate News Now on the X, Twitter, where I post updates all day from the courtroom. And then East Idaho News, we are on YouTube. You can also follow Meetin' the Eatons at our YouTube channel. There's a bunch of photos from back in the day before this trial even happened.
When we were young.
We were young and we were like, oh, let's make fun
Maybe
little videos
a little trimmer.
for our family. Not as much gray hair. And here we are.
Not quite so heavy.
Wanting to take naps and enjoying life. There's where you can have that.
And I do chat occasionally on Meetin' the Eatons when I am done with kids soccer and have 30 minutes to hang out.
There's the number one source. And by the way, if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, East Idaho News, you should. Right there. That's how you do it. Subscribe, thumbs up.
Why are you staring at me?
Ring the bell. Jordan put a lot of time making that graphic. So if you haven't done it, you're going to disappoint Jordan. That's the graphic on how to subscribe. So go to our YouTube.
Stop pointing at it.
Okay, I'm going to do it again. Wrong button.
No, it was there.
Oh,
you
wait.
had it.
I hit 2 buttons at once. Okay, there. Got that? Good. All right, we got to go because we have to get to Boise.
And get kissed. We do?
Yeah.
You
Well,
and me?
I do. I mean, I got to get to Boise and pack up all this stuff and get on the road. Anything you want to say? Goodbye?
Oh, have a good night. Have a great week. And should be an interesting week in court.
Yes. Join me tomorrow night, Courtroom Insider, same time, same place. I'll be in a different place, but you will probably be at your same place, and let us know wherever you're watching from. We hope you have a good night. Thank you for spending the night with us, the evening with us, 1 hour of your night. Take care. We'll see you.